Good morning, good afternoon, and of course, good evening. Sometimes in the pinball world, you think you've got all of your games lined up. So if you'd have asked me last week what are going to be my next three games in an ideal world, the answer may be very different to what I would say to you today. And I've got somebody to blame for that, and that's Spooky Pinball. Because yesterday, a couple of trailers landed for, depending on which way you look at it, either two spooky games or the same spooky game. And then a featurette has been produced by Straight Down the Middle, very good video. And I was so impressed by one of these games that I'm now giving serious consideration to getting one of them. So the idea on this video, I've got Enzo alongside me, and we are going to discuss as much as we can about these games or game, whichever way you want to call it. Enzo, why am I undecided about whether it's one game or two?
Yeah, it's one of the little gripes I have with Spooky. As much as I love what they're doing and the team and the boys, very enthusiastic. And like we spoke about this last time. Is it how good competition's good? It can't be just one person that's doing everything. But yes, obviously this is very similar to Halloween and Ultraman, where it's two different games but the exact same playfield. Although the interesting thing is, watching some of the content, this time they actually do have separate engineers, separate programmers, separate coders, and they're working on the games as if it was only one game out, not sharing kind of because I think the criticism they copped last time, which they acknowledged in that little Q&A that they did themselves, is the fact that the games probably were too identical, to the point that even like some of the call outs and some of the sounds were the same. So some of them suit Halloween, but they didn't suit Ultraman. So they've obviously tried to, I get what they're doing. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. I think two games, especially if you've got 14 people working, you've got, what was it? They got one engineer, one engineer, one programmer, one code, 1.5 artists, I believe, because they kind of shared some artists, and two animators per game. Why not just make a completely different playfield? But yes, it is technically one game.
It is. But I understand their reasoning for doing it, because what they're doing is they're doubling the chances of someone liking the game. Now, Halloween and Ultraman, I'd never heard of Ultraman. I still don't know what one is. I don't know what it is. Sounds like a kitchen floor cleaning detergent, actually. So I don't. But nothing cleans your oven quite like Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Yeah, absolutely. Halloween, I didn't really know because I'd never watched it, and as we've both just discovered when we were having a chat beforehand, you don't seem to like the horror film genre any more than I do. So I think my problem with it was, I know I've played Halloween, and I really enjoyed it as a game. The shots, the play fields. These guys are packing a lot of stuff into their games. So we'll get onto Scooby Doo in a minute. I've had Scooby Doo here. Very, very, very impressed with it. However, Halloween was not a theme that I'd even watched. I'd never watched the film. So what I needed was the other one to be a theme that appealed to me. And Ultraman didn't. So neither of those games in terms of theme appealed to me. I think what they've done here is really clever. So they've gone with this horror theme genre, which we're going to get to what other people think in a minute. A lot of people are preferring, the two themes I should probably say now, are Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Looney Tunes. Now,
complete opposites.
Complete opposite, but I think you're covering both aspects. Have you played Halloween or Ultraman?
No. I watched Halloween. I watched the video that you did with your colleague, and where did I see it? I saw it at one of the shows. I can't remember when it was though. I quite liked the playfield and the levels with the playfield. I thought that was cool. Something different. I've always wondered why pinball never had more than 2 levels. And we see some playfields that have underneath, like Big Lebowski as well. You could do 4 levels, but it just didn't. Like even the bushes with the multiple. Mike Myers on the left there. That just, I don't know. Like the genre, you've spoken about this on your channel. I'm a massive ambassador
Okay.
of this whole theme. Theme's important. There are some players that will walk up to a pinball machine. They just want to finish the game. The theme means nothing to them. They're not about points. They just want to finish the game, and that's okay. But obviously,
I'm
you limit
assuming
yourself
that
a bit
there's a
with this genre.
mechanism behind that topper, isn't there?
Because you ultimately can't. Can you put this game in like a local pub with families?
No, no,
No,
no, no,
right?
no, no.
Looney Tunes you can, obviously. Ultraman you can, but nobody will play it because they don't know that it's a Japanese cartoon. I found it. I was a bit surprised when they announced Ultraman because, it's a very, very, very niche market. Halloween obviously isn't. It's a huge, huge market. But you limit, anything with murder and blood and semi-naked women will
Well,
struggle.
the semi-naked women's a separate genre. These pinball
Yeah.
companies may well find themselves with some record sales if they just do the semi-naked women. Maybe
Yeah.
the LE has the fully naked woman. The Pro, actually,
Yeah.
you can't say Pro when talking about a naked woman.
No.
It has a different meaning altogether.
Yeah.
It's a theme that's not necessarily going to appeal to everybody. What I would say is, having read through some of the feedback, there's so many people excited about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I have to say, just viewing it through the eyes of somebody that doesn't like horror films, I can understand why people that do like horror films and do like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre would like this game. I've listened to the featurette. There's no featurette for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I've listened to Spooky Luke. That's his name, Spooky Luke. Wow, this guy is enthusiastic about pinball. He loves pinball. There's a lot of the stuff that he's saying in the videos, and this is about the Looney Tunes version, and he's talking about the models on the game. And he's talking about how they're not sort of 1D plastics, that these models have been hand sculpted, hand painted. They're clearly really enthusiastic that he's saying you can't just go and buy these models off Amazon or anywhere else. They have been exclusively customized, bespoke models for this game. And for me, I'm loving it's great. I love Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
And it's really funny, actually, because I have often been saying that theme is important. And I often criticize some of the games for having too many characters, but it just goes to show how important theme is, because this game has a lot of characters, but I don't care. Bring it on. Do you know why? Because I love these characters. I love Tweety Pie, Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, Taz, Daffy, Elmer Fudd, Sylvester the Cat, and Tweety Pie is as good as anything, I think.
Yeah.
And I look at this game and I just immediately, we will get on to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We got that footage as well. I am all immediately bowled over with this theme. And then I go and watch the featurette and I look at these guys' Spooky's enthusiasm for making a game. These guys are in love with pinball. There's no doubt about it at all. And I really was. I was really, really impressed with this. Now, my friend Ant, and a lot of you will know Ant, who's the guy that does he's been on this channel many times, does the restorations. He's currently restoring April Deluxe for me. He made that amazing Terminator 2. Have you seen it on the channel, Enzo?
I have, yeah, it's awesome.
It's beautiful, isn't it? So Ant has said that he actually he believes that the design layout was designed for Texas Chainsaw Massacre first. And then they did this theme. And because he thinks some of the mechanisms like the grinder, the meat grinder, and things like that probably lend themselves more to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's just have a look at that. What we're dealing with here: 4 flippers, space rocket ball lock, a 360 whirling Taz, carnivorous, vulgarous TNT detonator. I don't like the carnivorous bit. I don't want to be eaten when I'm playing pinball machine. Flipper backside ball lock. That looks really good, actually. A lifted captive ball. 4 ramps. Yes, 4 ramps and 4 flippers. Interactive Acme crate. A Desert Cliff Orbit Diverter ball lock. Acme magnet. I like the way you've got to. If you're doing Looney Tunes, you've got to use the word Acme a lot. Acme. Let's have it all. Whaler meter. I like this stuff. What are your thoughts when you first saw it?
There's a lot packed into the game. There is a lot.
There's even more there. Yeah, absolutely. I really, really, really like this. So you saw this, you saw the trailer yesterday, like everybody
I
else.
did, yep, for both, and then I watched the Q&A they did, and I think, the secret sauce on this, like, as much as I've got a few little gripes with it, but I think where they nailed this with both genres, and the key word here, and I think where this is going to be successful, is nostalgia. Because nostalgia is an extremely powerful thing. Nostalgia has an essence. It's got a way of taking you back in time. That moment that you touch that thing that has a nostalgia connection to your childhood or a memory, right? You transport for that millisecond back in time and then come straight back, right? And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, based on the 1974 movie, whatever it is, right? As opposed to doing the remake. They could have done one from a couple of years ago or a video game from a couple of years ago, but they chose the old one. And they chose the old one because of nostalgia, because it's got character. The video content has got soul and character. The artwork automatically that comes with that has got character. And all the modern stuff probably doesn't have that same connection with the nostalgia. And same with Looney Tunes. I mean, again, we all watched cartoons in the 90s, early morning, after school, Saturday morning cartoons. Nostalgia's there. And it doesn't matter whether you think it's a childish genre, everyone's going to want to play it, right? So I think this is probably, this is a big call, but it could be two of the biggest releases because of the fact that both of them have that nostalgia connection. Yes, they're the same game, right? We know that. But I believe that they've probably done it in a way now because they've got the two separate teams and the artwork is so different, and I know the parts look the same and everything, but they have changed as much as they could. To me, it possibly could be two completely different games, in theory.
Yeah, I mean, this has got a Walking Dead look about it. There's no doubt about it. I'm not into ironically, I have watched The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I think they did 8 seasons. I think I watched up to 6. It was, I think some great things about The Walking Dead. Negan, I think, is one of the best bad guys. Negan and Joffrey in Game of Thrones are two of the best bad guys that have been on TV, right? So, but generally, I don't like horror. So I certainly don't watch horror film. That being said, that meat grinder looks awesome.
Especially when it starts working and the ball goes down, and
it does. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I might actually use it as a kitchen appliance, quite frankly, and use it to make some sausages. It does. I mean, that bit does look amazing. So, I mean, there is this. That's great. That's great. They've done a really good. By the way, this trailer for this is very good.
Yeah, well, it hits all the nostalgia buttons. I mean, look at the. It's got character. It's got all the original. I mean, he's got the original voices. What's his name? Edwin Neal is his name. I always forget that. And I mean, I think he was born in like the 40s, so he's there. The voices on this are the same guy that does a lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, the Scooby-Doo, Flintstones.
Yeah.
What's his name? Popeye, Bugs Bunny, Papa Smurf. What's the guy's name? Will come to me. Scott Innes.
Yeah.
Scott Innes, right? So, you got all the assets from the 1974 film, and I think they know that the genre of horror is going to be targeted to people that are 40 plus, probably, right? So they'll all know the 1974 film. And I think even if you're not into horror, it's probably enough to kind of get you to play because it's cult classic, right? So I think they're probably lucky here with this one, to be honest.
Yeah, I gotta say, I have no desire to have one. If I've got to have one, I can only get the Looney Tunes. But that looks good. I was looking at that, particularly when it went down the right hand side and it sort of popped. I had a mod for Elvira. Did you buy the Elvira, by the way?
I did, yeah. So the interesting story with that Elvira, there's none in Australia. They had one for a guy, fully loaded, premium. And then he saw the red edition one and said, I want that instead. And they put his one back on the market at the exact same week I was looking for one. So talk about timing.
Excellent. Well, I had
Yeah.
I had a modification for Elvira, which sat on the right hand ramp, and it
Yep.
was made. I think it was made by someone called Medicinal Mods, and he engraved sort of Gonzo and it had some hammers and had some crossed hammers for West Ham. And when it went down the rail, it was like it was right where the vertical up kicker was, but the ball
Oh,
would
yeah.
roll down and basically his flaps would open up. That seemed to have a similar thing on it, but
Mm.
on like a real mechanism on this, which was really cool. So I think there's a lot to like on that game. I'm fascinated, Enzo, by
Yep.
this dynamic that we've got
Mm.
in pinball now, because listening to the guy, as I say, there were three guys talking on this featurette. One of them was Spooky Luke. Another one was also called Luke, non-Spooky Luke. And then there was another dude who was, again, very enthusiastic, very likable as well. And they're really keen to make these games. And something we always say on here, and we say it too much, but, did you make the best pinball machine that you could? And they are. Once, whether you like a theme or dislike a theme, that they're putting everything they can into it. And both of these look packed. And I think when you look at what's happening, like that Stern Venom wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. Have you played it yet? Have you got it? Have you played it yet?
I went to that. We had that launch of it. No. For me, they've missed the mark.
Yeah, circuit boards.
I'll cop criticism for that because everyone in my little group here think I'm crazy, but it missed the mark for me.
No, they did the bare minimum. They didn't even cover up the circuit boards. At the bare, honestly, I know the shots, and I got a lot of respect for Brian Eddy. My favorite game might be Attack from Mars, my favorite game ever. But no, it looked like no thought had gone into those shots. And you look at somebody doing the bare minimum that they have to get a pinball machine out there. And then you look at something like this. And by the way, Spooky aren't faultless. They are not faultless. There's been some of the Scooby-Doos have just arrived over in this country. So people got some problems with them, some little bits. But what I do know is that if you need a spare part or you need something, Spooky are really good. They'll be on the phone. They'll reply to your emails, and they'll get you that part straight away. I know someone that had a problem with the Halloween as well. The part was shipped out to them straight away, and they didn't charge them for the part or anything like that. They were apologetic. They still seem like a company that are learning, but I tell you what, they are, Spooky, and this becomes apparent when you listen to this featurette. They're a company that's listening. They keep on referring to it. We've listened to what people have said. They repeat that 3 or 4 times throughout the video, and that's so important. And they're looking at it now, and it's so packed. I don't know why a lot of these companies get so caught up in when they don't maybe get the license to use someone's voice or something like that. Don't get me wrong, I think it was brilliant that Stern got Adam West to do the call outs for Batman 66. Brilliant. Okay, if you can do that, fantastic. But if not, there are a lot of talented voiceover artists and impressionists. Just get them to do it. And I know JJP, they must have paid a fortune to Tim Allen to do the Buzz Lightyear. But it is probably one of the most copied voices around. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are 200 voiceover artists who could do a very passable impression of Buzz Lightyear. So I think too many people get caught up with that. I was listening to those call outs on the Looney Tunes, and you talk about nostalgia. Elmer Fudd, the voice of Elmer Fudd, Sylvester the Cat, listening to Bugs Bunny, listen to Daffy Duck, listen to these voices, these iconic voices. I mean, they've just done a really, really good job, mate.
And that he's been doing those voices for ages as well, and he does so many of those voices. But there's another name I can't remember. But yeah, the call outs and even the story behind, how do you bring the Looney Tunes into a pinball machine, and the idea of Taz destroying the factory, and you have to get the film from the golden era, and again, that's all about nostalgia, and so I think. And the bright colors, and that playfield looks stupidly bright, like in a good way. In a good way.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of attention, the artwork. I think there's a lot of criticism with pinball artwork on the left and right of a machine because obviously in a lot of places you don't see them. But in saying that, like I've got my machines that, they're probably that far away from each other. And you can see enough of the side artwork, and I think it's still important. I think it can really make or break a pinball. And I think they've nailed it with Looney Tunes. I can't really comment on, Texas, look, it looks good. Don't get me wrong. Especially the top of the range one looks good with the red and the blood and all that. But, Looney Tunes it kind of looks real 80s, 90s with the colors, the pinks, the purples, the oranges.
Yeah.
It's definitely one that I'd be tempted probably as well, maybe.
I do wonder with that, actually, just looking at it, I do wonder if the bottom model, the lowest model, one of my gripes with these pinball companies, Enzo, is that why can't they all just call their top model the LE? They make it very confusing, right? So anyway, so so they've got whatever their top of the range is. I wonder if the playfield and all the mechs on it are the same as the bottom of the range, because I think it was on Scooby-Doo. I just think it was the cabinet and maybe the armor and stuff like that was different.
Yeah. They released, because obviously they're doing 888 of each one. And they did release a checklist on their Facebook page with the 3 columns with their LE Pro and Premium. That got released, I think, today. And they've got the ticks on each model. So there are a lot of them that are everything's the same. Everything is the same. I think a lot of it is probably cabinet, colors, topper, speaker upgrade, the grill on the speakers, the magnetic grill on the speakers. But yeah, there is a comparison chart. I definitely saw it on their Facebook page today. But look, I think, with and actually the only part I couldn't work out is if the 888 is in total, or is that like a combination of like 200 of the entry levels and 300s of the middles and 300s of the tops? It doesn't really explain that. But yeah, maybe I missed that. So excuse me if I did.
No, I don't know. Sorry, I had to. I was actually looking at Pinball Info, which is our website here in the UK, and I got to the bit where my mate Andy had posted something. I don't know what he'd posted, so I was sort of, back out, reverse out.
I saw the word uncut.
It could have been. It could have been anything. It could have been anything from Andy. So we don't want a YouTube strike.
Actually, that mechanism you're talking about on Texas Chainsaw, the right one is the fridge that's quite famous. What do you call them? The victim in the freezer. So it's it's a dead body in the
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
It's that famous. You haven't seen the film, but it has scenes that you're aware of.
This is the thing about that, right? And because the genre itself, like I watch a lot of wrestling, pro wrestling, and recently obviously the new movie came out, right, recently, and they had a Texas Chainsaw match, which was a very violent, even though it's obviously scripted and fake, but it was a very violent, bloody match.
Was there a chainsaw in the wrestling match?
There was. So they actually brought out the main character dressed up, and he was promoting the film. They were promoting the film, basically. But there's a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily like. A friend of mine has never watched Pulp Fiction, but he knows the famous dance between the two of them.
Of course.
Or he knows the swearing by Michael, by Samuel Jackson. So I think there are snippets of films that you don't necessarily need to know, but everyone, Leatherface, 90% of people would know who that is. The fridge, the meat grinder, but although the one criticism I did have, and Leatherface I can understand because they've got Leatherface on the 360 spinner mechanism, right? And then on the Looney Tunes, it's Taz, right?
Yes.
But Taz is spinning really slowly. And even I can get it, they probably should have sped that up a bit. That would have been really cool to see Taz just spinning a bit as fast as that Getaway game, with the supercharger. And the ball's just spinning fast. They could have done something with Taz just to make him spin a bit faster, because I felt that probably felt a bit flat, to be honest. Whereas with Leatherface on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he's spinning. He's just a bloke spinning a chainsaw. but Taz doesn't really spin. He's kind of just in the wind. That's just me nitpicking, obviously, because Taz was one of my favorite characters, but I felt it was a little bit flat, personally.
I've just only realised, this is the thing when you watch these things, I've just realised you're not hitting him to make him spin.
No.
He just, at some point in the game, he's just going to spin around. Yeah, so the other dude was there with a chainsaw. I should have given Taz a chainsaw. That would have really mixed things up a bit.
I mean, I like this ball. Because obviously in all the Bugs Bunny scenes, you see them with the boulder and the mountain. So that was clever. The TNT's clever.
It's almost, it's quite funny actually, because sometimes you see these small things on a pinball machine, and it's ridiculous because we're all grown men and none of us should be buying this stuff anyway, right? And some may think, oh yeah, and then it's this is what did it for me. This I love Wile E. Coyote. Boom, that, and most of it's just the animation anyway. It's not even doing anything.
But still.
Let's just have a look at.
I quite like that.
There he is. He's spinning round. Let's go back there. Where was he? There he is.
Yeah, see that he's spinning okay there because there's a bloke spinning, right?
Yeah.
The Taz one moves just as fast, and it kind of doesn't suit the character. I think Taz they should have upped the notch, So Spooky, if you're listening, I think they're going out February. Let's see if we can speed Taz up.
Speed him up.
Just gonna speed him up. Come on, it can't be that hard to speed it. So I'm sure someone will start modding games and speed Taz up. But what I do like, where the ball gets stuck on the magnet just under Taz, and then it goes forward by itself with the magnet. I thought that was clever. I don't know if I've ever seen that on a pinball game.
Yes,
before.
doesn't it? Yes, yeah. Sort of magnetism drags it into the scoop or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I love magnets. I love magnets in pinball. I mean, I've got Ghostbusters here and that. With the ghosts at the bottom near the.
There he is. There he is spinning. There you go.
Yeah. So he's spinning pretty slowly.
You're right. I get what you mean. For the character, he's mad.
Yeah.
He goes like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes. It doesn't fit with the character. Yeah, Taz is fun. You're going to need a bigger motor.
You're going to need a bigger motor.
Yeah. Listen, the magnet's the same. That thing there, that Legends of Valhalla. Magnets on it, magnets galore. They make a pinball machine do crazy things. But talking about the mods, these games look so packed. Look, the mod makers will make anything better. Godzilla. And look, it sounds like I'm always digging out Stern. I'm not. I've got to make this point here, and I make it to you because people just don't understand. I know that because we talk on the phone. I know the prices of Sterns over in Australia. I know what they are in the US. In here, they are so much more expensive. Over here, a Stern is as expensive as everything else. It's no cheaper. That's the thing. And it's some cases more expensive. Basically, you could find yourself with a Stern. So I'll tell you now, whatever the lowest model of whatever any of these is, Chainsaw Massacre or Looney Tunes, right? The Stern Pro will be more expensive than all of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was looking at the pricing.
Stern Pro is £8,500 English pounds. Okay.
Yeah.
So for us, I understand it's a budget pinball machine. For everyone else, a Stern. For us, it's not. It's an expensive pinball machine.
Well, the standard edition of Looney Tunes is $8,299 US, I would assume. So that is what? That's let's have a look. $8,299 US in pounds is £6,600 for the standard model.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I noticed because Scooby Doo, which was packed, by the way, of a massive playfield and all the rest of it, was coming out at cheaper than the vast majority of Stern games. So that's why, if I seem like I'm harsh on Stern, that's why over here Stern aren't a budget pinball machine, because as an importer we have a middleman over here. Yeah. So there's two people taking a bite at the cherry. So that's why, but. Okay, so my friend Stumbler, Davey Stumbler, Paul, Jazz Bush, a lot of these, and I've got another friend, John, at the moment, who's making even more mods. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Making even more mods for Godzilla. By the time these guys have finished, Godzilla will look completely different. And by the time they've finished, that's how these other people make their games. Yeah. So Stumbler would have finished by the time he's finished with his No Tokyo Neon sign, and Jazz Bush is finished with the the atomic Godzilla, and the UFO's been done, and the bridge has been done, and the noodle bar, and the whole skyline is there. What you will see is a completely finished Godzilla, and it is a great game. It shoots that nothing. Very few shoot better than Godzilla. It's genius in terms of design and the gameplay and the code and everything. However, in terms of putting toys on it, it's like Godzilla was 80% finished, and the mod makers are doing the final 20%.
Yeah.
When I look at these games, and it's not just these games. You could say the same about maybe even the Labyrinth. Certainly, these American pinball that are coming now, Dutch pinball. They do so much stuff in there that there's not a lot for the mod makers to do. They'll always make a mod or two, but I think with things like you can make, there'll be 20 mods that you could probably fit in a Godzilla, and then it would start to look like that.
Do you think a lot of that is probably I know this sounds like we're Stern bashing, but Stern obviously know people are going to buy their machines regardless. There's a cult following there, right?
Yeah.
So they know that even if they cut some corners, let's just call it that way, whereas people like Spooky who are listening to the public and are loading the machines up because that's where Stern is falling, right? The boutique, I think, are always going to be doing or giving more because obviously they're trying to broad to everybody and try and win that mass market share that they don't have. In saying that though, like as soon as Spooky got massive, if they get really big, well, they start cutting corners as well, because it is all about profit and revenue, and Stern is a big company, that it's all about that profit and loss statement. So I wonder if, Stern obviously know that people are going to buy the machines regardless. Right?
It depends on the machine. So everyone will buy Jaws. And I'm really excited about that, and I will. But they struggled to shift the Venoms. There's no doubt about it, and rightly so. I mean, there were loads of offers being made. The Venom was the first machine that I can remember, and I've not been into this hobby for ages, but certainly since I've been in it and looking. I bought my first in 2018. I was probably looking at them from 2017. The first time that I remember all the LEs didn't get bought up straight away was Venom. You can still go and buy a new inbox LE. That's the first time I remember that. And I might be wrong, but not by a lot. Most of it. So you can see that, so they can get it wrong. So it doesn't, I think there was a point before when anything Stern produced, everyone would buy. Now there's not. Now there's competition. People are thinking, oh, hold on, I might buy this pinball machine from a different company. But so I do think there's a part of that. But that's going to go, particularly bearing in mind they've moved to a new factory. But I go to it in the UK. If we could buy a Stern pinball machine for £6,000, for instance, or whatever, we understand we're going to have to pay a little bit of import duty. It's not that, but look, let's be fair. Putting it on a shipping container is not turning it from £6,000 into £8,500. That's not what's happening there. Okay.
Yeah.
I think if we could get it for that, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that the end stops needed to be replaced and the balls went. Because I would look at it and I think this is a budget pinball machine. I think that's what I have to get my head around. Stern are budget pinball machines. However, once they come over to here, we can't judge them as budget pinball machines because they're just as expensive and more expensive than everything else. So actually, they cease to be a budget Ford car. They become Ferraris and Rolls Royces. But what you're getting, you're paying Ferrari prices, and you're getting a Ford.
Do you think does Stern see themselves as a budget pinball company?
I do, because I think they're cheaper than everybody else. I think they do. I think when they produce their pro version, I think they're saying, look, this is great value as an entry level game to pinball. Yeah. This is much cheaper than everything else. Forget Super Hoop, but Super Hoop was a bit of a weird one. I mean, it'd be interesting. Well, I want to find. Well, I'll ask you the same question in a second because you're in a different country. But I do, and I think when they're saying, well, you get this pro game here, it's excellent value, and I think it probably is. I really do. I look at the margins on it, and I think at £6,000, it probably is. It's just not. It's not that over here. It's just not budget, and I think it is over there. So, do you think they see themselves as that?
I don't know. I've watched a lot of Gary Stern's interviews, and the fact that everyone kind of worships the ground they walk on. I think a shipment from Stumbler has just hit my email. That's funny. No, look, I think maybe they don't. I think that they do consider themselves quite up there, but maybe they consider themselves because of that pro model that is, in Australia. I think it's about $12,000 or something, which is, which is the entry level. But I think here, the problem in Australia, a lot of the Venoms have sold here. There are a few LEs I've noticed on the market still. But I think with Australia, we have a smaller population, but that population, I mean, we have more millionaires per square meter than anywhere in the world in Australia. Yeah. And there's a lot of cashed up bogans, like we like to call them here. They like big, shiny things. So there's a lot of pinball sales over here, and there's a lot of people with big collections. And a lot of the machines, they get sold. It's very hard to get. If you don't get in and put your deposit down, you will miss out. Now, could that be because we're not getting a lot of machines? I don't know. I think we do get quite a few because Gary Stern, he loves coming over here and he knows how big the demand is. But I think it is very based on demographic and, again, we've got mining over here. There is a lot of people that are well off. I can understand in the UK maybe because the demographic's different and maybe there are different levels of income. I don't know. It's a hard one because it's just so different. It's just the two countries are so different.
What's your local where do you buy your pinballs from?
So I get them from Joe.
You can plug away. I don't get it. Who's your shop?
So Joe has a company over here called Kids Just Want to Have Fun. I've mentioned him last time.
Yes.
And he gets them from AMD.
Whose website do you go to decide what to buy?
Okay, so I'll go to Joe's because Joe is who I work with here, but Joe's website is old school because he runs just word of mouth. But if I've got to look at what's actually available and what's coming in Australia, it'd be AMD.
So what's the cheapest game? If you go onto AMD, generally, what's the cheapest game you can buy?
So the Pro, they're all the same price. So the Pro
it's a Stern Pro is the cheapest game that you can buy. And this is my point. Every other country, I think, unless I'm wrong, but you won't find many countries. Almost every country in the world, the Stern Pro is the cheapest pinball machine you can buy. In the UK, it's not.
But yeah, well, and that's the weird thing, and that's the part. Like I said, it's so different because. I don't know. Are they trying to force people to not buy pros? Like we've got a company over here that sells AV stuff, and they've got 3 models of this projector, right? And the entry level is so expensive that people just go, I'm just going to buy the middle of the range because it's only $1,000 more.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And they don't sell the entry. I think they use the entry level as a bait and switch, to be very frank.
Yeah.
Because it gets the people that don't have a lot of money hooked. I'm going to buy that. And then they go, wow, look how much shit's missing from the Pro to the premium. It's $1,000 more, or $1,500 more, and they'll buy it.
You're talking about a projector here.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm using the same analogy because we have.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm just making sure. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, one thing I've noticed, especially over here, a lot of pros end up in pubs, bars. Because it's the cheapest one, right? And if it gets hammered, it doesn't matter.
Unless they go wrong.
Yeah. But I do think the bait and switch happens a lot. I don't know a lot of people that have got pros of machines personally, myself. There are some people that prefer, I prefer Pro Jurassic Park over Premium. That's personal.
There's some, aren't there? There's some games that
you can make the case. But yeah, look, I think price-wise, they're so deep between all the companies. Pinball Brothers, Jazz Jack, they're just so different. And then there's Haggis as well. They're a different price again. I think these guys at Spooky really hit it though, because at that price point, it's pretty good value for money. To be honest,
it's just so much cheap because it's only the Stern that have the middleman. So everything else, we get sort of normal price plus the shipping, and obviously we've got to pay tax.
Yeah.
But listen, everyone has to pay tax, right? I know there's
Yeah.
some states in the US that don't have tax, but I can't remember what it's called. It's called sales tax, I think, in the US. Some states have it,
Yeah.
some states don't. It's not the tax and it's not the shipping. You expect that but
Yeah.
so these other guys. So for instance, Pulp Fiction is considerably cheaper,
Mm.
as I remember it, than a Stern Pro. That's crazy.
Well, I was just looking at their website now for the $10,000 to Australian. So yeah, so the top of the range, Texas Chainsaw or Looney Tunes is the same price. Now this isn't factoring in tax and the fact that they will come in and then the distributor picks it up. So really, like for like, a top of the range Looney Tunes is the same price as a premium Stern.
Right. Okay. Yeah. For us, the top of the range will be very close to the price of a Stern Pro.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy.
But so anyway, we digress a little bit of Stern there, but I'm really impressed with what they're doing here. And I certainly, I hope to get my hands on one of these to play it. I hope. To be fair, it's been an interesting one because you get that Looney Tunes and the kids are going to play it. You get that Texas Chainsaw and it's going to be hiding in here.
Do you think they can get away with the fact that the machines are identical because the genres are so opposite?
Well, they have less development costs as well, don't they?
Yeah. Because I mean, if it was like Looney Tunes and I don't know, what's another, Minecraft, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The genres are too similar, right?
Sure.
It's all, targeted to your families and all that type of stuff. And if the machines were the same, kids would just go, "This is just that machine," because my 5-year-old would know that's the exact same machine, just skinned differently. So I think the fact that they've gone polar opposites, has no one will go, these are the same machines.
No, but it's funny. I did my top 50 the other day, and I was calling X-Men and Rush the same machine.
Yeah,
and there's more differences between those two than there are between these. These are the same machine. There's different scoops and different things in those games. I don't blame them for doing it, and I think any way that any one of these companies can either survive or go from boutique to being a genuine pinball manufacturer, then I think all power to them. Really, I'm delighted to see it. I like the theme. There was a time, Enzo, 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't have considered anything other than it would have to be a Stern if it was going to be a new in-box game or even a newish game. I didn't trust anything. I didn't trust Rick and Morty. I didn't trust Hot Wheels. I didn't, I haven't got to go back very far. I didn't trust any of this other stuff.
Yeah.
And now they're viable.
My story is exactly the same. Sorry, there's a slight delay. I buy Sterns, as you can see, because in WA, because we're so isolated, Joe only does Stern. He could probably get the other ones if he really wanted to, but for me, that's by confidence, because if something goes wrong, I'm protected.
Yes.
And I'm supporting him, and he really is a massive Stern ambassador. So I'm the same. I wouldn't even think of, I did have a Jersey Jack Wonka, and it didn't last long. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I think I hope they've upped their game since they're a beautiful looking game, but flippers aren't right. I'm not. I hold my hands up. I'm not the biggest Pat Lawler fan in terms of his games and his design layout. But I mean, look, don't get me wrong. There are great games there, and you've only got to look. Foo Fighters is right up the top of my list there. Jurassic Park's not on there. I've had Jurassic Park, excellent game. Godzilla is one of the best pinball machines ever made. Avengers Infinity Quest, as you know, I struggle with the rules, but I think the shots are excellent. Stern do make really good pinball machines. They're just, in this country, they're overpriced, and that's really my only gripe. But I will be buying Jaws. If the rumors are true, I will buy Jaws, and I'll
put my name down.
I'll get a premium as well. I absolutely will. What these guys are doing is they're making it really difficult. When I say these guys, I mean Spooky, because I looked at that Looney Tunes. I think this is a game. This is a game I want. And I looked at how good a job they did with with Scooby Doo.
Scooby.
Scooby Doo was weird because I had it here for a month, and on the last day, the day before it went to Pinfest, and it had some problems at Pinfest, by the way. But it worked here perfectly for a month beforehand. It's absolutely typical. The day before, it had a code update and it changed the game. So I had one day with this new code, and I'm really pleased to hear people now looking at and playing Scooby Doo, and they're saying it feels like you're in an episode of Scooby Doo, and it did, and they got it. And I think that's the thing. If you're not chasing around these actors, these top level actors, you're not trying to get Tom Hanks's voice or whoever, whatever, Michael J. Fox's voice or whatever. If you're not trying to do that, and actually just got to get somebody to do an impression of Scooby Doo, right? Just that's that.
It's impressive though, really, that Spooky have this license for Warner Brothers.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I mean, Stern must be kicking. Someone at Stern got fired that didn't get this license.
Would they wanted to do it? I don't know. He said in the featurette, we like to think of Spooky, we get the best themes. Look, I'm not sure that's the case. I have, as I say, I have no love for Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre or anything else. But it doesn't matter if I do. It's how many other people do. What I do think is looking at Scooby Doo, looking at Rick and Morty, and looking at Looney Tunes, and it's quite clear what I gravitate towards. These are really big titles,
I mean, and I always thought, like, the little gripe I have with these guys, and if they're watching, is that I find their logo a little bit old school, like something that came out of Word from 1995. Word,
the logo.
Word art back in Windows 95, and the Spooky logo, and whether the name limits you. Like, it's weird to see Spooky do Looney Tunes because there's nothing spooky about Looney Tunes, right?
Okay. But it does, like, for Scooby Doo, it works.
Yeah, yes, for 100%. Yeah, Resident Evil would work for Resident Evil. It would work for Silent Hill. It would work for.
I don't like all this stuff. I don't like all this stuff.
Yeah, but it's just, I think that the name always threw me off a bit because the genre, I thought it was going to be always scary titles or some type of horror.
I like their logo. American Pinball logo's a bit crap, I think.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a crap one. I quite like the Stern logo.
Yeah.
Like Jersey Jack is hard. Jersey Jack is so thin, it's hard to use when I'm trying to do like thumbnails for YouTube. It's quite hard to use.
That's just me nitpicking on my graphic art background of refining a logo and making it look less word art from 1998 Windows.
Spencer had this one in the top, just above your head, the Flipperama logo. Spencer, it was actually a combination. First of all, it was Colin Collywobbles, who does all my practice plastics. Is a really great guy. He pointed out that we were spelling Flipperama wrong, but I just made it up. Well, number one, I'm dyslexic anyway. I don't know how anything's spelt right, and it was how I'd spelt it. So I put it. So anyway, so he produced like one of my. It's loads of signs. They're all done for my Collywobbles.
They're wicked, those.
And I said, hold on a second, there's no R in it. And he said, well, that's how it's spelt. And he was right. So I said to Spencer, we need to redesign the logo. So Spencer did that. And he said, okay, how do you want it? I said, right. I said, it was Colin's idea because that big sign on the back, you can't see it too well at the moment.
Yeah, the big chrome one.
Yeah.
The mirrored one, sorry.
The O's are pinballs. He's the one that turned the O's. I really like that. So I said, Spencer, you need to redesign it. And you need to make the O's pinballs. And he said, great. He said, what colour? I said, purpley pink. He said, what? You can't do that. I said, you can. It has to be bright. I've got to have a bright colour. And
you know what? It works because when you're on your phone and YouTube notifications and you get all the little thumbnails of all the stuff that's come out that you're subscribed to, your sticks out like dog's balls. Because
it's not meant to be cool. It's meant to be bright. It's not meant to be cool. As someone said to me once, and it was about because I don't think I've actually filmed it too much since I had it done. So Batman 66 is in pinks and purples. All the armor stuff.
Brilliant.
And somebody said, as a Pinfest, they said that's not very subtle. Subtle? It's a pinball machine. It's it's a 7-foot box full of flashing
Yeah.
lights and sounds. There's nothing subtle about a pinball machine. The moment you buy a pinball machine, you've forgotten about subtle.
Did he ever watch Batman 66, the kapow and all that? That's not very subtle either.
It's not subtle. No, I said no. There's no. I don't have a subtle pinball machine. They don't. They
No,
don't exist. I'm not sure.
No, that'd be
I'm
boring.
not sure anyone does really. Enzo,
Yeah.
listen, mate. I've got to crack on. It's funny enough. Got another a football video to do actually. Thanks for joining me, mate. We'll be
Pleasure.
back.
Enjoy it.
There'll be another announcement soon, and yeah. So thanks for joining us, buddy. Good luck with Elvira. Well, did you get the other thing as well?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that for another time.
Leave that for another time.
Yeah, as ever, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, mate. Good man. Thanks, buddy.
Done.